So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Villains, and welcome for the Love Paul McGrath podcast. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start this. This is not a live podcast, so if you're watching this on YouTube and you're commenting in and you're expecting us to show your comments, unfortunately, we won't be able to do that. It's a pre-recorded podcast that we are putting out. So just a small bit of housekeeping on that for people. And forgot to change my background for anyone watching. Look at that, Paddy. I've adopted the body of Jacob Ramsey, it seems.
Body of an Adonis there, Neil. Look.
Yeah.
How will this transport to the audio version, I wonder?
No, it's definitely not. If anybody who's listening to the audio version, you're going to have to go and watch the video version as well to see that. That's what you get now. That's what I get for not changing the background that we have. It looks like my head on Jacob Ramsey's body here. That's actually quite cool. But I will change the background now to stop distracting people. And I don't want to distract people, Paddy, from what I would term as the most complete win that we've seen an Aston Villa team have in quite some time. Obviously Villa 2, Norwich 0, an away win where we looked like we were playing at home for a lot of the portions of the game, and an away win where we looked like we had answers to anything that they could throw at us, Paddy. It was, for me, it was a pleasure to watch a game and not have like squeaky bum time for 70 minutes of it.
Well, look, I'm going to slightly disagree with you because there was a period after they took off Cantwell where I thought Norwich were starting to get back into it. So it wasn't completely one-way traffic, albeit I wasn't overly worried that they were going to come up with anything that would trouble us. But I thought, but for that maybe 12, 15 minutes where they looked like Adamida come on and was up for it and was buzzing around the place, I thought he gave them a bit of an attacking impetus there. But other than that, I think they offered very, very little, and it was comfortable. And the only thing we were missing maybe was a couple of more goals.
Yeah, and I suppose let's go back, because we did the team sheet tantrum, and we spoke about what the makeup of the team was. I was a bit not apprehensive, but I felt that the Norwich team was better than we were given it credit for, and they just never came out of the traps. And Villa, I'm not going to say we came out of the traps like a bullet either, but we just looked assured and we looked content in the fact that we knew what we were doing and what our game plan was going to be. And a lot of it was like our three midfielders were fantastic on the night, I thought. Back four, I thought, were fantastic. Matty Cash had a couple of opportunities to bomb into the box in the game and to take the ball to the defender, and he absolutely did. So I wonder, was he listening to the podcast prior to the match? As I said, the only negative for me was at times in the first half we were back to just crossing the ball and kind of, I'm not going to say aimless crossing, but we were getting no joy from it. And that would be the only kind of negative I would put on. And Emi Buendia going off late in the game. It was weird. Gerrard said he keeps on getting kicked in the same spot, and you have to wonder, what's going on with his foot, I suppose, because he did take a nasty one from Adamida. You mentioned Adamida earlier on, and he just kicked the bottom of his foot, and it seemed that he was never fully right after that. But I thought I like it was a measured performance, specifically in the first half. The first half was like the real crescendo of the first half was Jacob Ramsey's goal. Like, we're watching a player grow his wings at the moment. Like, he scored 2 goals this season. One of them was a belter against Arsenal, was it? And then the other one was this belter again, So driving runs, what we know him for. He can carry the ball. He's probably the best ball carrier we have in the team, even when Leon Bailey's there. And he shifted the ball to his left foot, and Tim Krul, I don't think, thought there's any way he's going to go on his weaker foot here, and he did. He shifted the ball to his left foot after running 50 yards with it and stuck it in the top corner, So what a fantastic goal from a kid who's brimming with confidence, and he's getting the international plaudits at under 21 level. And I was listening to the Villa View earlier, and they likened him obviously he's not Jude Bellingham, and they went to great stakes to differentiate between that. But he does have that kind of grab the ball by the scruff of the neck kind of a mentality, and like I was just delighted. I was delighted that he scored a goal like that, because that's something that could push him on a couple of levels very, very quickly. So fair play to the kid. I was delighted for him.
But like, let's not underestimate how good this bloody goal was.
Oh no, we're not.
He took the ball a yard inside his own half and went full on Maradona. If this was Messi, they'd be replaying it. It was just incredible.
If Phil Foden has scored that, there would be nothing spoken about in Sky Sports News other than that.
Yeah, we'd never hear the end of it. But that little move right at the end where he drew in the extra defender with that extra little touch with the outside of the left boot, and bang. Make no mistake, that's an incredible finish that nobody was expecting except himself. And even Tim Krul, there was no way he was arrowing to go that side. He had left maybe 3 or 4 yards even free on that side for him to hit. It was an incredible goal, absolutely incredible from start to finish. Great ball from Ollie Watkins. Probably shipped a little knock there himself with the ball as well. But to go on that run and to show such composure for a man of his tender years is brilliant.
It's a bit of an insult to the goal to give Ollie Watkins an assist, because there's no way that Ollie Watkins' pass led to him scoring that goal. Jacob Ramsey scored that goal. Ollie Watkins' pass was consequential. That's all that was. It was the fact that he got it to another player. But like, and don't get me wrong, I have Ollie Watkins in my fantasy team. It's fantastic for me that he got an assist and a goal. But like, to call that an Ollie Watkins assist, I think is a small bit disingenuous. But look, we'll take it. I'm sure he'll take it for his stats as well. But no, look, take nothing away from Jacob Ramsey. Fantastic goal. And as I say, for midfielders, sometimes it's very difficult to find a midfielder like a Frank Lampard that will be a great goal scorer. But if you've got a midfielder that's a scorer of great goals, that can be just as good, because if you have a midfielder that gets 3, 4, 5 goals every season, and you can count on them, like McGinn, I think he got 4 goals last season. If he was to up at the 6, and you had 2 midfielders who are getting 6 goals a season, that carries a lot of water, with regards to if you've got a striker that's going through a barren patch or whatever. So, adding goals to his game is something that we always felt he could do. And we've always been big admirers of Jacob Ramsey here. His work rate, everything he gets around the field on. And, subsequent managers have come in and really put their trust in him to anchor down that position there. And he absolutely has done. And he's got the just desserts for it there last night. And you know what? His interview afterwards was, he's like, he's a child. When you interviewed him, there's no airs and graces about him. There's no shite about him or anything like that. It's a case of, well, I was there. I scored my goal, and it was a good goal or whatever. That's fine. It's okay for him to be proud of scoring the goal like that. But he's not a Billy Big Bollocks. He doesn't come across that way. And Dean Smith mentioned that about him, and Stephen Gerrard has name checked him there with regards to being a very professional and down to earth guy as well. So I like that. I like that.
He had a little bit of a banter with Gabby Agbonlahor, who's in the studio as well. Yeah. And they're kind of very like each other.
I was going to say it, yeah, but I didn't want to paint him with the same brush.
And their dryness and everything else. And I don't know whether you saw the Villa interview that they did with him afterwards, and he said, "A great goal by me."
Yeah.
And it's just like exactly what you would have heard Gabby say 20 years or 15 years ago or whatever. And he's just a lad brimming with confidence, and it bodes well for the future. And it just made me look around at the fact that we probably need to bring in a central midfielder now to cover Marvelous Nakamba. And it makes you think, should we be putting all our eggs into our youth basket and seeing what's there? Can Tim do that job for us? Because if we can bring this conveyor belt through, we're going to make ourselves a very sustainable club.
Absolutely, and that's a big thing. That's a huge thing. And like you can your 5-year project can become a 3-year project if 2 of these guys materialize out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, if Carney hits the ground running, and we'll get on to him in a moment, if Jacob Ramsey becomes a 6-7 goal a year from midfield player, and sustains that form, you know, and then maybe you get a Kane Kessler-Hayden comes up, and then and our Ben Crescente comes up and hits the ground running at left back, you know, fill some of those less glamorous positions. And then you can fire money at the big striker that you need to, or fire money at the Ruben Diaz type defender that you need to replace Mings. You know, it's a lot of times, and Aston Villa have been guilty of this in the past. And when I say guilty, I don't mean it as a real negative, because there's a lot of players that they would have brought in that look good, but then just never fitted into the team, or we had a change of manager or whatever. So like, I'm going to go back to the Martin O'Neill era. Like, we fired money at right back and left back, and Warnock and Luke Young. Luke Young played pretty okay. Warnock was very wishy-washy. Then we had Nicky Shorey. Then we had Joe Bennett. Then we had, you know, it was Ali Sissoko. It was a revolving door at left back. And yes, you might have only been buying people for 3, 4, 5 million, but they all add up to 20. Like, wouldn't it have been better to go in by a 25 million pound striker, or 25 million pound left back? But if you can get one of those, a left back, for free, like, and that was one of the keys with Manchester United. Manchester United were able to cover a central midfield position. They were in Roy Keane, you know, obviously bought in a different era, I know, but when money started to ramp up, they had their 2 fullbacks were going to be the 2 Nevilles, homegrown talents. They had a creator in David Beckham, and so on. And what I'm saying is that these less glamorous positions, if they can come from your academy, then, you know, that will allow you then to make a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, and really ramp up your recruitment. So, because you'll fill out the squad naturally with a good youth squad, but if you can get them into your first team, that's where the real money is to be made. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. And that's not what I wanted to talk about in the podcast, but I think it is a smart bit.
And it's, if you look at the revival we've had under Steven Gerrard, take Bertrand Traore and Leon Bailey out of that. Yeah. And I don't think there's been a player that hasn't benefited from him coming in. The turnaround in, even if you look at Matty Target, he's a different man again. He's back to the Matty Target we had last season.
That's actually true, yeah. Yeah. And he's faced up against some tricky customers as well. Like, that Paqueta last night wasn't a bad player, but
they took him off, didn't they? And I was kind of I was glad they took him off. But you know, if you look around that conveyor belt, we'll call it, you know, you mentioned Kane Kessler-Hayden, Louis Barry is to come back in. Louis Barry might benefit from coming back from loan, because he's having an absolute nightmare.
He's going to join, actually, Kane Kessler-Hayden at Swindon.
I hope so.
I think would be a great move for him.
Yeah, just because we know that there's potential there. There's no, like, we saw him go full Maradona against Liverpool in the FA Cup, so we know he's capable of it as well. So it's just about a good manager bringing that out of a player. So we've also got Cameron Archer, who we haven't mentioned, Philogene Bidace, who's around the first team. There's so much to be enthused about in what we have, that maybe we don't want to look away from the bigger picture of spending lots of money, which was exactly what I did when Gerrard came in. I was going, okay, he's going to buy a left back, he's going to buy cover for Matty Cash, he's going to buy a central midfielder. God, he might even buy a striker. He might do, but I think he just strikes me as the kind of guy that will give these guys a chance first before he goes.
Well, yeah,
and spending loads of money.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely think that we will see a midfielder come through the door.
Well, I think that's the only must at this stage.
I think we might even see 2 if Nakamba's gone, and I think he's happy with his McGinn, Louise, Sanson, Jacob Ramsey. I think that 4 to be able to rotate in the 2 of the 3 positions, but he is going to need a specialized defensive midfielder. Like Norwich, look, greatest will in the world. Like, you could play Douglas Luiz in there, but Douglas Luiz has been like, he's like a new man since we've taken the shackles off him. And once again, we go back to the whole big strapping Bouba Diop, God rest him, type defensive midfielder there, who can ideally would be able to play a pass, would just be fantastic for this team. But again, you know, we'll see what happens. I don't think I'm not too tied up in the whole will he go back to Rangers and get Glenn Kamara piece. I don't think there's a hope in hell Ryan Kent plays for Aston Villa. I think he knocked that one on the head straight away. I just don't think he's what we need.
No.
We might get a Glenn Kamara, who knows? But
now when you've got Bailey and Traore to come back into that squad as well, so I think that would be a bad move. Kamara, I'm not sure about. I've watched him a good bit. I'm not sure he's up to that quality. I could be completely off the mark, and I'm open to correction if I am. But I didn't think he was that good anytime he's been up against better opposition in Europe and stuff. The one thing about that position is you mentioned the likes of Papa Bouba Diop or whoever you want to put in that category. Have you noticed on a number of occasions over the last couple of weeks, Konza and Mings going full Franz Beckenbauer coming out with the ball?
That was the next thing I was going to say. And we'd be bringing on Axel Tuanzebe in that stopper position. That's twice we've done it now with 10 minutes to go.
So that kind of defender frees them up to do things like that. And it's at first glance you go, what the hell is going on here? But like it's turning defense into attack because the space is there. So, if they can get away with that and they can do that, let them do it.
Oh, because
I think it was the Konza one nearly ended in a really good chance at one stage. So, it's nice to see something different, and that's something that stood out for me in the last couple of weeks.
Steven Gerrard put his faith in youth once again coming off the bench, and Carney Chukwuemeka came on for Emi Buendia. Was that Ashley Young or was it Buendia? I think it was Buendia. Came on for Buendia, and it's like as if there's no one else in the field when the ball comes near him. He is the most relaxed. He's horizontal in the mid, within a game situation. I know he was in a bit of space, but he took that ball down brilliantly, and then he knew he was going to get turned. And when he got turned, he put in a brilliant ball. Like I've been giving out about players not bombing into the box. He got into the box there, and he laid a lovely ball across. And I think that's more valuable than the floaty, lofty crosses to the back post. And it's just something that I kind of had a rant about in the pre-match, but I know the game had opened up at that stage, and that they were going forward. It was just after the McLean chance as well. I think the Kenny McLean chance that he had, and so on. But for Carney to do that as well, like the confidence levels that he must have, and the fact that he even got in on goal in that chance against Manchester City, it's Paddy. I can remember a time only 2 weeks ago when there was talks that he wasn't going to sign a new contract because he saw no pathway towards the first team. Well, what more do you want? He's been brought on the last 3 games. That's 4 games.
And let's be honest, we don't know that he's actually said that.
I don't think so either. No.
I meant to pull you up at the time that we don't know that Nakamba is out for the season either. That hasn't been confirmed. I know it seems pretty bad.
It's more likely than not.
Yeah. So we'll wait till we hear full competition. And I should have said that when I meant to say it when I went in to talk about signing the defensive central midfielder. So I hope it's not the case, because as I said, Nakamba has benefited immensely under Steven Gerrard. He's been absolutely outstanding. He's been one of our better players since Gerrard came in. So I wish him a speedy recovery, and I hope it's not a season out for him.
No, much the same, because as I say, he's been one of the plus points since Steven Gerrard came in.
If it is a case that Carney has said that he hasn't seen the pathway, there's no excuses there. Get that contract on the table, get it signed. Let's look to the future. We did call him out a little bit about his pace. He does look a little bit. It's not. I don't think it's pace. I think it's just his mind is working ahead of his body, and he's just got to marry up those two.
I'm beginning to think it's a long man. Like he's not wicked fast, and that's okay. He doesn't need to be. But I think what it is that I just think he's just a real relaxed player, and that I was shocked by that, because when you see him at under 18 level, and you're seeing him last year, he was at a relaxed pace, but you knew he was like every time you walk out in the field, everybody knew he was the best player in the field. And then when you go up to the next game, I maybe thought, okay, maybe he needs to be small but urgent. But the more I'm seeing of him, I don't think he needs to be urgent. I think he's okay to be that Paul Pogba type, languid type player. And when I say languid, it's not a negative on him. I think he's a long strider as well. So we talked about Buendia being really fast, but Buendia is like Speedy Gonzalez, and the fact that his legs are spinning around like a cartoon character, whereas Chukwuemeka is taking longer strides. And I think that you know, he's not a manufactured athlete either, Chukwuemeka. So sometimes you see in the Premier League that there are manufactured athletes that are taught how to run. He doesn't look like somebody who's been taught how to run, and that's probably another thing in it as well. He's just a natural player, and maybe at 18 years of age, I probably wasn't expecting that. Like, he's not going to be a track and field star, but I don't think his pace is going to be an issue anymore. No. And this is because I've seen him more. I don't think his pace is going to be an issue.
He might benefit from a couple of games if Buendia is out. I wouldn't mind seeing him thrown in there. Ashley Young looked very lethargic last night. I think the 2 games was probably too much for him.
I was just about to ask I was just about to ask you what your negative was. Was there any kind of negative or any kind of something that you kind of would have taken away for thought? And I think Ashley Young was the piece for me.
Yeah,
I don't think we see him against Burnley.
No, I think he's learned now that at a 36-year-old or wherever he is at this stage, it's probably a bit too much. And I include Ashley Young in that group of players that has benefited from Gerrard coming in, because he just seems to have a whole lot of confidence. But at that age, at that level, 2 games in 4 days is probably too much. But I'll allow him that one, because he's been very good for us, and he's been a model professional around the team, and he's been good for the young lads as well. So I'm not calling him out by any means, because he's just been brilliant for us to have him back in there. But yes, I do believe now is the time to throw Carney in there if that's what we've got to do in that 10 position. Put him in there, let him see what he can do from the start, and sign his bloody contract.
Yeah,
for Christmas.
Yeah. I think that's really going to do it. You know, we wanted to like we could have dissected this Norwich game, but look, the news out of this Norwich game is that Jacob Ramsey is coming of age, and the Carney Chukwuemeka came on and led a beautiful ball across and we won 2-0. Dean Smith, actually, just before we leave, Paddy, you know, he cut. Like the fans were fantastic for, you know, they sang his name and stuff like that. And in the interviews afterwards, it's a funny one. I think he's a bit. I think he feels a bit hard done by about leaving Aston Villa. I don't know. I don't know. I just got that feeling that he was kind of like, he wishes as well, obviously, you know, there's nothing bad there, but I think that he feels that there was probably unfinished business at Aston Villa for him, and that he hadn't run his tenure. And I don't know, you might think I'm probably reading too much into it from one interview after a game whereby we basically bossed him from start to finish. But did you get that feeling at all, Paddy, that he kind of feels, he kind of comes across as being really sad to have left Aston Villa?
Well, look, I'll put it to you this way. Both of us are Villa fans. Both never good enough to play for Aston Villa. And the same can be said of Dean Smith. He never got to that level. He got to live the dream as being the manager of the club. He led us on an amazing journey. And, you know, I think we both agreed at the time that we didn't want him to go.
Oh, yeah.
But with 5 defeats, I think we both agreed at that stage that there was probably no way back. If he's feeling a little bit salty, I'm completely fine with that. And
I don't even think he's feeling salty. I just think he feels. I think
he said there was people at the club. People at the club didn't think. The people at the club decided it was time to go, and he didn't. That's what I took out of the interview.
Yeah,
he thought
I think
he had a bit more to give. And do you know what? He's fighting a losing battle there at Norwich. I don't think they're good enough to stay up. I genuinely feel sorry for him, and I do believe he's brought in there to get them back up. I don't think he's brought them in there to keep them up.
My original thoughts were, I think he took the wrong job. I think he should have moved to heaven and earth to try and get the Middlesbrough job. Because I think that he'd get more backing at Middlesbrough.
There was a stat last night of the last 15 years. There's only been 4 years that Norwich haven't either been promoted or relegated.
Yeah.
That's outrageous. But that's their business model. They get promoted. If they stay up, great. If they don't, they go back down. They get their balloon payments. They work hard. They go back up again. If that's all they have, if that's all the money they can attract, that's what they got to do. That's the way the club is going to be.
That makes a lot of sense, Paddy. Because, I was going to say this last night. You know, you go to, and look, Jesus, far be it from me, but you go to the Norwich Twitter page, and in their bio, there's links to things like Delia's Canary Catering Twitter page, which has like 1,100 or 1,800 followers, and they're seen as a primary sponsor of Norwich, It's a very colloquial town. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a regional town, it's a colloquial town. You don't expect it to have the big Abu Dhabi investment that a London club would have, or even ourselves. We're very lucky to be in the second city, Aston Villa to be in the second city, because there is going to come a time when the likes of like Burnley are really pucking outside their weight division, like what they're doing there, and you really are kind of hoping that somebody comes back and has a pot of cash for a team like that. So I don't disparage Norwich like that at all. It's I think it's more of a failing on the global football fraternity itself. The fact that it's just going to be driven into big towns and big cities. But like I think that and I don't think it's a negative that Norwich do live on the parachute payments, because we've seen it all too much before. The likes of Bolton, the likes of Nottingham Forest, the likes like all these teams that have spent above their means and been in real difficulty, and we were there. We were nearly there once upon a time as well.
We very, very nearly were.
Very close to
I suppose the big one is Blackburn, who everybody said at the time that they wanted to get relegated to get the parachute payments to rebuild the club, and they've never come back. So if Norwich can make that a sustainable model and manage to come back all the time and get their promotion, good luck to them. Because they whoever's there, and let's not forget, we spoke about Newcastle being a horrible place to go to. The infrastructure to get
I never spoke about Newcastle being a horrible place to go to. I've never been sober in Newcastle, so I think it's a grand spot.
The infrastructure to get to Norwich is an absolute nightmare. I watched, because I had so much time, my hands being off work, I watched Twitter, I watched Facebook, I watched all my friends. And the routes they were taking to get to Norwich yesterday, oh my God, I was there going, now I know why that has never been on the top of my list as an away trip. You can't fly there. You have to go through London to get the train, or else you're driving across barren country. Like, it's horrible. The traffic is horrible.
Here's where I get pelters from about my English knowledge. East Anglia,
yeah. And actually, I was drinking with Nathan from the East Anglian Lions at the Man City game. He met us in the pub early in the day, and he was talking us through his trip up from Ipswich. And I was going, Jesus Christ, man. It's easier for us to come from Ireland to get a flight into Birmingham and get a 10-minute train journey in from Birmingham International. Absolutely. And he's got to drive up from whatever, 9 o'clock in the morning just to avoid the traffic and get into Birmingham, park up the car, book a hotel. You're very rarely doing a day trip, so it's trying to attract people there is tough. I know it's near the seaside. I don't know what the seaside towns are like down there, but it's a small town. There's probably not much scope for developing the stadium there or making it bigger, because they probably won't attract the crowd to come in there. So it's probably not within even what their thoughts are. So look. I wish Dean Smith all the, and I'm after going off on a tangent there. Sorry about that. I wish Dean Smith all the best. If they've got to go down, I would love Norwich to stay up. I really would. I'd love it just for him. I'd love him to stick 2 fingers up to the world and say, look, I did that job that you said was impossible. And at the moment, I do think it's impossible. But if he does it, more power to him.
Well, if teams above them keep losing 7-0. They might be able to claw back, and that's not a joy but Leeds. But that was a fair performance from Man City. Man City are a team that won a Premier League on goal difference and never forgot it. Every year they put out a result like that against somebody, and that was ruthless aggression from them last night. But this isn't the Leeds nor Man City podcast, and I think that Bielsa is a fantastic manager, and I think he will get it right. And a lot of people are talking about him getting the boot. There's no way he's getting the boot. If he's leaving Elland Road, he's leaving on his own terms because of what he's done for them.
Well, so, I know it's not a Leeds podcast, but we do have them on the horizon.
Yes, that's why I brought them up, because we do have them on New Year's
28th.
Day.
28th, I think, or 29th.
28, yeah, around the New Year's fixture,
Yeah. So it's suddenly a game I'm looking forward to. So
I'm never looking forward to a game against them. They're like they're the epitome of a scorpion backed into a corner, you know.
Yeah, it's always a decent scrap, and we're living rent free in their head. So I'm looking forward to playing them, and hopefully we can do a number on them, because that's a long time coming as well. But they're genuinely in trouble, and I actually fell for Bielsa last night. His interview was a very, very hard watch. There was no long sentences.
Worst ever loss as a manager, wasn't it? It was his worst loss as a manager. But yeah. I don't think he's a fella that's water off a duck's back to him.
I'm not sure. He looked broken. He didn't even look at the interviewer. He gave his response to the interpreter. The interpreter, they were short and sharp, and he just looked like a broken man. I really felt for him now, to be honest.
Bielsa will be fine. Bielsa will be fine. Don't you worry about that. He'll have a trick up his sleeve, I'm sure. Anyway, we're going to leave it there, because we could spend another 90 minutes talking about other teams in the league, and we don't want to, because this is an Aston Villa podcast. But thanks everybody so much for listening. Just once again, apologies, this one wasn't live. We will be back with another live preview pod for the Burnley game. And we will obviously be back for the team sheet tantrum for the game on Saturday as well. We're on the cusp of a wave. We have 12 points from possible 18 at the moment. Let's make it 15 points from a possible 21 in the coming weekend. And let's bask in the glory of our academy stars who came on and turned this game. One came on and sewed it up for us, but the other guy single-handedly turned the game in the first half in our favor, and that's something to be proud of. So thanks everybody so much for listening, and we will be back later on in the week with another podcast. But until then, all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.